David, what do you think is going on here? This was clearly leaked to the Sunday Times. Why?
Yeah, it was leaked, wasn't it? I mean, this is something that's happening here. I think they're testing out the idea to see what the reaction is. They do this a lot. You know, it's something that is so outrageous, but, you know, it comes out, then there's a reaction, and then the government says, no, 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 we're not going to do that. We categorically deny it. It's leaked. It wasn't actually leaked from Rishi Sunak or anyone in the government. And then later on, they'll come up with some other thing that they might think of.
I don't remember this used to be a big part of politics. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is something that, like you say, it's become part of our political landscape now, hasn't it? Somebody leaks it to the paper. They're just testing the waters. They're a bit cowardly, aren't they? They're like, we'll see how this goes down on Twitter, and then we might make a decision about it or not. So what has the reaction been like?
Well, it's been totally against it, actually, and thank goodness for that. You know, even some of the people in the Conservative Party, like Steve Barclay and so on, have come out vigorously against it. But, you know, I would imagine that Jeremy Hunt, the Chancellor, would probably be very much in favour of some kind of Swiss-style deal or Norwegian-style deal, which then ties us back into the single market, or the regulations of the European Commission and the judgments and the rulings of the European Court of Justice.
Economic growth.
Well, no, we can grow economically outside the EU.
Well, we haven't managed it, have we?
Well, there's been a lot of reasons why that is. One is net zero and climate alarmism. There's lockdown. There's the conflict in Ukraine and sanctions on Russia.
These are all things has been more damaging than the pandemic.
5 seconds. These are all things that are like cutting growth. Brexit is a great opportunity for growth, but this particular government hasn't taken the opportunity.
Are you still apologising for Brexit and saying it's a good idea?
I'm not apologising.
But I find that absolutely incredible. It's like somebody that's got this boyfriend who's clearly terrible, and they're like, but he's really nice, he's really nice. And you're like, but tell me why, tell me why. David, just tell me.
Got me all wrong there.
Tell me one honest benefit of Brexit at this point.
We can make our own trade deals around the world.
And they've been terrible.
Well, I mean, that's because we've got a government that is pretty terrible. If I was in government, I'd make some good trade deals.
That one doesn't count.
I would control our borders, which theoretically we can do.
Oh, yeah, that's going well.
You know,
Amy,
oh, my goodness.
It's true. We didn't get a good deal because Boris Johnson made a terrible bad deal.
So that's the
we need to
thing.
Finish the unfinished business, and then it will be good.
So we can agree that the deal was not good.
So what we need to do is move forward,
and the way we move forward,
more independence, not go back into the union.
Be including rejoining the single market?
No, that's going backwards.
But how can you say that?
The whole point is we come out of the EU, we come out of the single market, we come out of the customs union, we come out of the common fisheries policy and so on. We control our borders, and then we forge our way as an independent nation.
Less business opportunities, more raw sewage in our streams, less people to work.
The raw sewage
worse wages.
It's because of the what the water companies do.
One of the reasons I thought, and I was genuinely quite ambivalent about the Brexit thing. I genuinely didn't know at the time how I felt about it. I was sort of probably going towards Remain. A big part of it, actually, funnily enough, was about clean water. And I thought, you know what? It's Europe that makes us have clean beaches. It's the EU that stops us pumping loads of poo into the rivers. We've got more poo in our rivers now, Amy Nicole, than we've ever had.
Record levels of poo in our rivers.
But that's my point. So the EU were nothing to do with it, though, right?
No, before that, we had brilliant water. It's because of Brexit that we now have
sewage.
No,
come on.
Because
I think, my point is, I think we could have, like, my feeling is, if that was what we were concerned about, the government could have said, we're not going to put poo in the water.
I don't think
we should have taken responsibility
can be trusted with that type of thing, though. Clearly, they've demonstrated it. The water companies aren't doing it. We needed the EU to keep that.
No, we could do it ourselves. They do need to put massive investment into the water system, particularly the Victorian water systems, which don't separate rainwater from sewage. That's the problem, because a lot of our water systems are so old and antiquated, and because our population's now grown so much, because of mass immigration, they're now no longer able to cope with the amount of sewage.
I can genuinely say it's not just immigrant poo in the rivers. I'm not sure we can tie it down to that.
They were built when there were 30 million people. Now there's 70 million people plus, OK? I'm not blaming, one type of person or another. It's just a simple number. But it is an issue.
If we quickly go back to what you said at the beginning about...
What, that Brexit is fantastic and we need to move forward? If you agree with that, that's great.
OK, that would be delusion.
So, Amy, but as a Remainer, when you heard this yesterday...
Not necessarily a Remainer at this point. I'm just a realist who's seeing that Brexit is not working out, and for it to work, we need to make a major change.
Do you feel confident... Hang on a minute, David. Do you feel confident that you can see the difference between COVID lockdown damage on our economy and Brexit's damage on our economy? Because I just think those waters are muddy to
I
continue
think
our
that you can
theme.
see that, because if you look at comparative countries, we are right at the bottom, and that is because we have Brexit on
But isn't
top
that because we have the
pandemic.
strongest lockdowns of any other European nation?
I mean, it's arguably, yes, I don't agree with you, but maybe that could play a factor. But one thing that, if we're talking about people that agree and people that disagree, you said like the reaction to the idea of a Swiss-style deal was negative. However, polling suggests that more people than ever regret their decision to vote leave.
Which polling is that? I haven't seen
There's
that
a
poll.
GB News poll
There was
yesterday.
a GB News poll
Really?
yesterday.
That's
Yeah,
very
and even
surprising.
GB News viewers, I think it was about 52 to 48, funnily enough. I might be wrong on that one. But there was also a YouGov poll that was that drew a similar conclusion, actually. But again, I just wonder whether any of us are particularly clear on the effects of Brexit and the effects of the COVID lockdowns on the economy. And in a way, it's frustrating for both sides, right? Because those who voted for Brexit want to say, see, it was a success. Those that voted to remain want to go, see, it was a disaster. And neither party can actually be clear on what the situation is because of lockdowns. Looking at the detail of this, so if we do this Swiss-style deal, it looks like we would get a Brexit trading arrangement offered by the EU. It would get rid of 80% of checks between Great Britain and Northern Ireland, open up access to the single market. But, and here is the big but, we would have to pledge alignment, at least temporarily, on food and agriculture standards. And also, Switzerland give them about £1 billion over 10 years.
Yeah, that's completely unacceptable. We certainly shouldn't be paying any more money to the EU, and we certainly shouldn't be agreeing to a temporary alignment in standards, which would then become a permanent alignment in standards. This is what would happen. We have really, really good standards in animal welfare, but we certainly don't want to come into this sort of new standards that they're bringing in things like carbon and nitrogen emissions. You see what's happening to the Dutch farmers at the moment, which I know people talk about on this channel a lot. It's absolutely terrible what they're doing. They're ruining the farming industry, trying to take the land off farmers and close farms down because they don't adhere to these new EU standards. We don't want that here.
The other thing, of course, is that Switzerland is signed up to the Schengen free travel area. So the EU-Swiss agreement removes all documentary and identity checks, most physical checks, most veterinary certificates. We'd just be going back, Amy, really. There'd be very little difference, wouldn't there?
I think that the pros outweigh the cons absolutely exponentially with this one. And I cannot believe that you would still hammer that Brexit is a good idea and is working, because you can't even think of one benefit.
Brexit is a great idea. I've mentioned many benefits, but I've also mentioned
a few more?
and it's true that this particular government is not making the most of the opportunities that we have. Let me come in with a heritage party, we'll sort it out, and we'll make Brexit work.